Ford spent decades convincing the world that a real pickup truck needs a diesel engine and a steel ladder frame. Toyota built an entire legend on that same idea. And for most of the last 50 years, they were right. If you wanted a truck that could tow a boat, haul a ton of gear through a river crossing, and still start on a freezing morning at a remote job site, there were really only two names worth considering. You bought a Ranger, or you bought a Hilux. There was nothing else worth arguing about. Then a company that had never built a single pickup truck in its history launched one. It did not launch in China, where the company is based. It launched in Mexico. Within a single year, it was outselling the Toyota Hilux to private buyers in one of the toughest, most brand-loyal truck markets on the planet. It uses a plug-in hybrid drivetrain that the manufacturer says produces more power than many V8 engines. It can drive silently on electricity for an entire week of daily use. It can power tools, appliances, and even an entire house during a blackout. And it costs meaningfully less than the trucks it is outcompeting. It is called the BYD Shark 6. And right now, product planners at Ford and Toyota are in meeting rooms trying to explain to their leadership how a company with zero pickup truck experience walked into their strongest market and rewrote the competitive landscape in under 2 years. To put that timeline in perspective, developing a new truck platform from scratch traditionally takes established manufacturers anywhere from 4 to 7 years, factoring in engineering validation, crash testing, durability trials across multiple climates, and regulatory certification across different countries. BYD compressed much of that timeline by using its existing expertise in battery technology and electric drivetrains as a foundation rather than starting from zero on every front. That is part of why this story matters beyond just one vehicle. It demonstrates how quickly a company with the right existing technology base can enter a category that outsiders assumed required decades of specialized preparation. This video breaks down exactly how that happened. The platform hiding underneath the Shark 6. The engineering decision that let BYD skip 100 years of diesel development. The way it turns a work truck into a mobile power station. And the strange, deliberate decision to launch this truck as far from China as geographically possible. A decision that explains more about BYD's strategy than any spec sheet could. Let's start with why the pickup truck resisted change longer than almost any other vehicle category on Earth. Longer even than luxury sedans, longer than family SUVs, longer than sports cars. Because understanding that resistance is the only way to genuinely understand how significant this particular disruption actually is, and why it caught two of the most experienced truck manufacturers on the planet off guard. Think about the vehicles people are most loyal to. Not the ones people simply like. The ones people will argue about with a stranger in a parking lot. In most truck-driving countries on Earth, that list is short, and it is dominated by two names, the Ford Ranger and the Toyota Hilux. In parts of Australia, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America, choosing between them is treated less like a car purchase and more like choosing a football team. Buyers inherit that loyalty from their fathers. They pass it down to their own children. And when a customer base is that loyal, a manufacturer does not need to innovate aggressively. Ford and Toyota understood this deeply. The Hilux built its reputation on surviving nearly anything: floods, deserts, war zones, decades of abuse. And Toyota rode that reputation for generation after generation without needing to fundamentally reinvent the formula. A diesel engine, a separate steel ladder frame, a gearbox with a low-range transfer case, a cargo tray in the back. That combination sold in enormous numbers, year after year, across nearly every truck market on the planet. But brand loyalty was only the first wall protecting the incumbents. There was a second wall, and it went much deeper than customer preference. Building a genuinely good diesel engine is difficult. It takes decades of accumulated engineering knowledge, a deep understanding of combustion behavior, emissions control, turbocharging efficiency, cooling systems, and long-term reliability under brutal, repeated mechanical loads. Toyota has been refining diesel engine technology for longer than most people reading this have been alive. If you were a new automaker trying to enter the truck market and compete on Toyota's or Ford's terms, you effectively had to replicate a century of engine development before you could even begin competing on price or features. That was the moat. That is what kept new entrants out of the pickup segment for decades. even as electric and hybrid technology transformed sedans and SUVs all around it. The truck stayed loud. It stayed mechanical. It stayed expensive to run. And nearly everyone in the industry assumed it always would, because the physics of serious towing and hauling seemed to demand a large, proven combustion engine, and only a small handful of manufacturers on Earth genuinely knew how to build one at that level of reliability. BYD looked at that wall and made a decision that, in retrospect, looks almost obvious. It did not try to climb over the wall. It did not spend 20 years trying to out-engineer Toyota's diesel program. It walked around the wall entirely. Because if a truck barely needs to rely on its combustion engine for daily operation, the manufacturer does not need 100 years of diesel expertise to compete. That single strategic insight is the reason this entire story exists. Now let's talk about the platform underneath the Shark 6, because the engineering approach is not what most people expect from a company primarily known for electric passenger cars. The Shark 6 is built on what BYD calls the DMO platform, dual mode off-road. That name tells you almost everything about the underlying philosophy. This is not a conventional diesel pickup that had a battery pack bolted on as an afterthought late in development. It is not an existing platform that got partially electrified halfway through its product life. According to BYD, the truck was designed from a blank sheet of paper specifically to be a plug-in hybrid off-road vehicle, with the combustion engine and the electric motors treated as equal design partners from the very first sketch. Here is what that plug-in hybrid architecture actually means in practical terms, because it is the core of the entire disruption. The Shark 6 uses a relatively small 1.5-liter turbocharged petrol engine, nowhere near the size of a traditional truck diesel. It also has two separate electric motors, one driving the front axle and one driving the rear, giving it dual-motor all-wheel drive capability without a traditional mechanical transfer case linking the axles together. And it carries a substantial onboard battery pack. Under most normal driving conditions, the truck operates primarily on electric power. The petrol engine's main job is not to directly drive the wheels most of the time. It exists largely to generate additional electricity and to provide supplemental power when the truck is working hard, towing heavy loads, or when the battery charge is depleted. In practice, an owner plugs the truck in at home, drives on stored electricity for most weekly use, and the combustion engine sits mostly idle, activating primarily during heavy load situations or extended trips beyond the battery's range. BYD describes this as a distinctive, longitudinally mounted hybrid arrangement, meaning the hybrid system runs lengthwise down the vehicle rather than sideways, which is generally the more effective layout for a body-on-frame vehicle like a traditional pickup truck. And that detail is worth pausing on, because it tells you BYD did not abandon traditional truck architecture. The Shark 6 retains a proper separate ladder frame structure underneath it, the kind of body-on-frame design that gives a pickup its structural toughness for serious off-road use and heavy payload capacity. BYD did not discard that engineering heritage. What it did instead was integrate its well-known blade battery technology directly into that structural frame. If you have followed BYD's electric vehicle lineup at all, you have likely heard of the blade battery. It uses lithium iron phosphate chemistry, commonly abbreviated LFP, which is widely regarded in the battery industry as more thermally stable and less prone to combustion risk compared to some other lithium chemistries, particularly under physical damage or puncture scenarios. But the clever engineering decision here is not just the battery chemistry itself. According to BYD, the pack in the Shark 6 is roughly 29.6 kilowatt-hours in capacity. Instead of sitting on top of the vehicle's frame as pure dead weight, which is how many hybrid and electric conversions of existing platforms handle battery integration, the pack is built directly into the floor of the vehicle as a load-bearing structural component. BYD claims this integration increases the overall rigidity of the vehicle's body by approximately 22% compared to a conventional design. That claim is worth sitting with for a moment, because it inverts a common assumption about hybrid and electric trucks. A stiffer body structure generally translates into better handling predictability, improved ride comfort, and a frame that flexes less when the vehicle is crawling over uneven terrain with one or more wheels off the ground. A genuinely important characteristic for a truck marketed toward off-road and worksite use. In this design, the The same component that extends the vehicle's electric driving range is also the component adding structural strength. That is a design outcome you generally only achieve when you engineer the vehicle around the battery pack from the beginning, rather than attempting to retrofit a battery into an architecture that was originally designed exclusively around a combustion engine and drivetrain. And this is precisely the structural advantage that legacy manufacturers do not currently have. Ford and Toyota are working with truck platforms that were originally engineered in an era when the combustion engine was the undisputed center of the design, and if a battery was present at all, it was treated as a secondary addition rather than a core structural element. BYD did not inherit that legacy constraint because it had no legacy truck platform to begin with. It built the Shark 6 for this specific era of automotive engineering, not for the era its competitors' platforms originated in decades earlier. This is a pattern that shows up repeatedly across industries when a new entrant designs a product around a technology that did not exist when the incumbents built their original platforms. Smartphone makers who tried to bolt touchscreens onto phones designed for physical keyboards struggled against companies that designed the entire device around the touchscreen from day one. The same logic applies here. A ladder-frame truck platform designed in the 2000s or early 2010s, before large-format automotive battery packs were commercially viable at scale, simply was not built with the structural cavities, wiring architecture, or crash safety considerations needed to house a battery pack efficiently. Retrofitting that capability later means compromises, awkward battery placement, added weight without added structural benefit, and wiring harnesses routed around a chassis that was never meant to carry them. BYD skipped all of those compromises simply by not having an old platform to retrofit in the first place. Now here is the part of this story that tends to make traditional truck buyers understandably nervous, and it is worth addressing directly rather than glossing over. For roughly 50 years, the core promise of a pickup truck was fundamentally mechanical. A diesel engine you could hear working, a drivetrain you could physically feel engaging under load. To a lot of longtime truck owners, the idea of a vehicle that runs primarily on electricity sounds more like a lifestyle gadget than a genuine work tool. Something that might feel impressive on a test drive, but could fall apart the first time it is actually put to serious daily work. The reality, according to available performance data and early ownership reporting, appears considerably more convincing than that skepticism suggests, though it comes with real caveats worth being honest about. BYD's stated torque figures for the combined hybrid system are substantial, and dual electric motors provide instant torque delivery from a complete stop. A genuine advantage for towing initiation and low-speed crawling situations, since electric motors do not need to build RPM the way a combustion engine does before delivering peak torque. The combined system output, according to BYD's own specifications, exceeds what many naturally aspirated V8 engines produce in comparable full-size trucks. Independent third-party towing and payload testing across varied real-world conditions, extreme heat, extended mountain grades, sustained heavy trailer loads over many hours, is still relatively limited compared to the many decades of accumulated real-world data behind the Hilux and Ranger. That is not a criticism of the engineering. It is simply an honest acknowledgement that a truck platform with roughly 2 years of real-world market exposure cannot yet offer the same depth of long-term reliability data as platforms that have been refined continuously for multiple decades. There is also a genuinely compelling feature that goes beyond simply moving the vehicle down the road. Because the Shark 6 carries a substantial onboard battery and sophisticated power electronics, BYD has equipped it with vehicle-to-load functionality, meaning the truck can output usable household-style electrical power directly from onboard outlets. In practical terms, this means the vehicle can run power tools at a remote job site without needing a separate generator. It can power camping equipment during an off-grid trip, and during a power outage, it can supply meaningful electricity to a home for an extended period, depending on the household's power draw and the remaining battery charge. A traditional diesel pickup cannot do any of this without towing along a separate generator. The Shark 6 turns the truck itself into that generator. Think about what that actually means for the specific buyers pickup trucks are marketed toward. A tradesperson running power tools on a remote job site with no grid connection currently needs to bring a separate portable generator. Extra weight, extra fuel to carry, extra noise, and one more piece of equipment that can break down. A farmer running irrigation pumps or livestock equipment in a paddock far from any outlet faces the same problem. A family in a region prone to extended power outages during storm season has traditionally needed a dedicated standby generator installed at the house, which itself costs thousands of dollars and requires separate fuel storage and maintenance. In each of these cases, the Shark SIX's onboard power output does not just add convenience. It potentially eliminates an entire separate piece of equipment that buyers previously had to purchase, maintain, and store. That is a tangible cost saving that shows up well before anyone even considers the vehicle's day-to-day fuel savings. Beyond the drivetrain, there is a quieter but equally significant advantage running through the entire vehicle: the interior and technology experience. A truck platform is enormously expensive to develop from scratch, which is why manufacturers typically keep a given platform in production for a decade or longer before a full redesign. That means the interior design, the infotainment electronics, and the fundamental cabin architecture of many diesel trucks currently on sale were conceived many years before their current model year, sometimes closer to a decade earlier, with only incremental facelifts applied along the way. BYD carried none of that legacy baggage into the Shark SIX's development. It designed the cabin recently, for an era of buyers who already expect large touchscreens, smartphone connectivity, and modern digital interfaces as a baseline expectation rather than a premium upgrade. The practical result is a cabin that feels meaningfully more current than many established competitors, a difference that is genuinely difficult to replicate with a mid-cycle facelift on an older platform. Now let's talk about Mexico, because this is the part of the Shark 6 story that receives the least attention and is arguably the smartest strategic decision in the entire project. BYD is a Chinese company, and China is by a wide margin the largest automotive market on Earth. The conventional, expected strategy for launching a flagship new vehicle category would be to launch domestically first, establish strong sales volume and brand credibility at home, and then use that momentum to expand into international markets. That is the approach nearly every automaker follows by default. BYD did the opposite. It launched the Shark 6 in Mexico, on the geographically opposite side of the world from its home base, and did not meaningfully sell the truck domestically in China at all. To an outside observer, that looks like a strange decision. Why would a company effectively bypass the largest car market on the planet with its brand new flagship truck? The explanation involves a regulatory detail that most people outside the automotive industry have simply never encountered. In China, pickup trucks are legally classified as light commercial vehicles rather than passenger cars. That classification triggers a range of restrictions on where and how these vehicles can be operated, including limitations in many major Chinese cities. This regulatory framework has kept the pickup truck a relatively niche vehicle category within China for years, despite the country's massive overall car market. In effect, the domestic market that is enormous for sedans and SUVs is comparatively difficult and limited specifically for pickup trucks. So BYD looked instead at markets where pickup trucks are genuinely beloved as a way of life rather than treated primarily as a commercial work tool, and aimed directly at those markets. Mexico first, then Brazil, then Australia, one of the most pickup-obsessed and, frankly, one of the most fiercely competitive truck markets in the world, where a pickup often functions as cultural identity rather than simply cargo capacity. That sequencing tells you this was never a casual side project or an opportunistic export of a domestic product. BYD built a truck specifically engineered for the export markets that Ford and Toyota have dominated for roughly 50 years, and then launched it directly into their strongest territory to compete there first. Launching in Mexico was not an eccentric quirk of timing. It was a direct declaration of exactly which competitors this truck was designed to beat. Now let's step back from the individual specifications and talk about what the Shark 6 actually represents in a broader sense, because its significance extends well beyond one vehicle model. For roughly half a century, the formula for a commercially successful pickup truck was essentially fixed and rarely questioned. Take a steel ladder frame, install a proven, well-refined diesel engine, add a mechanical four-wheel drive system, build a multi-decade reputation for reliability through consistent, largely unchanged execution. Then sell that formula to a buyer base that trusts the brand badge more than almost any other purchasing signal in their life. That formula worked precisely because it was extraordinarily difficult to break into from outside. Only a small number of companies in the world possessed both the diesel engineering expertise and the multi-generational reputation required to compete credibly. The gap between the established players and any potential newcomer appeared essentially uncrossable. The Shark 6 did not attempt to cross that gap by competing on the incumbent's own terms. It went around the gap entirely by leaning on electric motor torque instead of decades of accumulated diesel engineering refinement, by building the battery pack into the structural frame instead of chasing incremental diesel combustion efficiency gains, by treating the truck as a mobile power source in addition to a hauler, adding a functional capability the traditional formula never offered at all. BYD chose to compete on the specific attributes that buyers directly experience and feel: power delivery, running cost, cabin technology, and refinement, while deliberately sidestepping the exact engineering domain where the legacy manufacturers were genuinely untouchable. You do not need a century of diesel engineering heritage if the combustion engine in your vehicle functions primarily as a backup power source. You do not need to outmarket Toyota's decades-long reliability legend if you are winning customers instead on the monthly fuel bill, the silent daily commute, and the built-in power outlets in the cargo tray. The entire basis of competition shifts to different ground. And on that new ground, the protective moat that shielded Ford and Toyota for 2 full generations suddenly protects considerably less than it used to. It is worth being precise here. This is not simply a story about a cheaper alternative to the Hilux. That framing misses the actual point. The Shark 6 represents a fundamentally different question being asked. Instead of asking how to build a marginally more affordable version of the existing formula, BYD's engineering team appears to have asked what a truck buyer genuinely wants in this specific decade, using the best available technology to deliver it. The resulting answer was a plug-in hybrid, dual-motor pickup with its battery integrated into the vehicle's structural frame. A truck that drives primarily on electricity throughout the week, tows and hauls heavy loads when actually needed, and can power an entire work site or household at no additional fuel cost. And the market response has been substantial and immediate. In Australia, during its first full year of availability, the Shark 6 reportedly sold in the tens of thousands of units and outsold the Toyota Hilux specifically among private buyers, a segment where Toyota's brand loyalty has historically been considered nearly unbreakable. Chinese brand pickup trucks collectively moved from a small fraction of that competitive market to roughly 1 in 6 utes sold within a single year, and industry reporting has identified the Shark 6 as the single largest contributor to that shift. That transition did not unfold gradually over a decade of incremental market share gains. It happened in a remarkably short window. A brand that most Australian truck buyers had barely heard of just a couple of years earlier walked directly into what is widely considered Toyota and Ford's strongest global territory and began winning meaningful market share almost immediately. There are also legitimate questions worth raising honestly rather than glossing over, because a channel built on factual accuracy owes its viewers the caveats along with the achievements. Resale value for a genuinely new vehicle category is difficult to predict with confidence, since there is no multi-decade used market history to draw on the way there is for the Hilux or Ranger. Battery degradation over 8, 10, or 15 years of ownership in extreme heat, the exact conditions many truck buyers in Australia, parts of Mexico, and the American Southwest actually operate in, is a genuine open question that will only be answered with time and real-world data, not manufacturer projections. Service network depth is another factor. Toyota and Ford have spent decades building parts availability and trained technician networks in remote regions specifically because trucks are disproportionately purchased by buyers who work and live far from major cities. BYD is actively expanding its service footprint in each new export market, but it is starting from a much smaller base than companies that have operated dealer networks in some of these regions for 50 years or more. None of these are reasons to dismiss what BYD has built. They are simply the honest unknowns that come with any genuinely new platform, and they are worth knowing before assuming the Shark 6 has already definitively won. To be fair, and any honest breakdown of this topic needs to be fair, the established manufacturers are not standing still in response. They have clearly seen the sales data, and they are actively responding. Ford has launched a plug-in hybrid version of the Ranger, manufactured in South Africa, bringing electrified assistance to its best-selling truck platform for the first time. Toyota has reportedly been developing its own plug-in hybrid version of the Hilux, aimed at directly competing in this same emerging segment. Another Chinese manufacturer, Great Wall Motors, is already selling its own plug-in hybrid pickup called the Cannon Alpha, which in some configurations offers a larger battery pack and a higher towing rating than the Shark 6. And perhaps most tellingly, multiple manufacturers across the industry are now working to combine plug-in hybrid technology with diesel-level towing torque, specifically chasing the heavy-duty towing capability that this first generation of hybrid pickups has not yet fully matched compared to dedicated diesel platforms. Beyond the direct pickup competitors, there is a wider industry ripple effect worth noting. Component suppliers who specialize in battery integration and dual-motor drivetrain systems are seeing increased demand from truck-focused engineering teams who previously had little reason to develop expertise in this specific application. Universities and technical training programs in countries with strong automotive manufacturing bases are beginning to adjust curricula to address hybrid truck architecture specifically, rather than treating combustion and electric drivetrain engineering as entirely separate disciplines. None of this happened because of a single vehicle. It happened because the Shark 6 proved, with real sales numbers rather than concept car promises, that genuine market demand existed for this category. And proof of demand is what moves an entire industry faster than any amount of internal advocacy from engineers within legacy companies ever could. The competitive segment that BYD helped open is now filling rapidly with serious rivals. This is, in many respects, exactly how disruption is supposed to unfold in a healthy competitive market. One outside player breaks an established set of assumptions, demonstrates that genuine consumer demand exists for the new approach, and forces the entire established industry to respond and accelerate. The performance and feature gap between competitors will likely narrow considerably over the coming years. Competition in this segment will intensify, and ultimately, every buyer across every brand will likely benefit from better trucks, lower running costs, and more advanced technology, regardless of which badge they ultimately choose to purchase. That broader outcome is genuinely good for consumers. But it is worth being clear about exactly what has already happened, independent of how the competitive response unfolds from here. For 50 years, the pickup truck was widely considered the one vehicle category that could not realistically change. Too rugged, too mechanically traditional, too deeply tied to diesel engine culture and multi-generational brand loyalty to be meaningfully disrupted by an outside challenger. Then a company with zero prior pickup truck manufacturing experience designed one from a blank sheet of paper, launched it on the opposite side of the planet from its home market, and within roughly 18 months was outselling the most trusted name in the business among private buyers in one of that brand's strongest global markets. That is the BYD Shark 6, a plug-in hybrid drivetrain built around dual electric motors. A battery pack engineered directly into the vehicle's structural bones rather than bolted on as an afterthought. A combined power output that the manufacturer claims exceeds many V8 engines. A running cost that more closely resembles an electric vehicle than a diesel truck. And a set of onboard power outlets that turn a standard work truck into a functional generator. It is not a cheaper imitation of an existing product. It is a genuinely different answer to a question the industry had largely stopped asking, and the sales data suggests a substantial number of buyers had been waiting for exactly that answer without necessarily realizing it themselves. Whether Ford and Toyota can close this gap with their own plug-in hybrid responses remains to be seen, and the honest answer is that towing capability, long-term reliability data, and service network depth will likely determine how much ground the legacy brands ultimately hold. Diesel engines still offer advantages the Shark SIX's current configuration has not fully matched: sustained heavy towing over long mountain grades in extreme heat, the kind of punishing multi-hour hauling that mining and agricultural operations demand every single day, and the decades of parts availability in the most remote corners of the markets these trucks serve. A plug-in hybrid system, however cleverly engineered, still depends on that battery pack maintaining its capacity year after year, and on a service network that can actually reach a broken-down truck 300 kilometers from the nearest town. Those are not small caveats. They are the exact terrain where 50 years of institutional experience still counts for something real, and where the legacy brands have the clearest path back to relevance if they move quickly enough. But the assumption that pickup trucks were somehow immune to the kind of disruption that reshaped sedans and SUVs has already been proven wrong. The truck market spent 50 years believing its walls were uncrossable. It took one company 18 months to demonstrate that the walls could simply be walked around entirely. Whatever happens next, whether Ford's hybrid Ranger closes the gap, whether Toyota's hybrid Hilux arrives with the reliability legend intact, or whether BYD extends its lead even further, the old certainty is gone. The pickup truck buyer of the next decade will choose between more genuinely different options than at any point in the last 50 years. And that shift traces back to a company that had never built a truck, launching one on the opposite side of the planet, and betting correctly that the old rules no longer applied.